So I've actually noticed it's been a fat minute since I've done a low star legends video over here on the channel. I even went back to see who won the poll, and turns out it's Robin Hood, who I could have sworn I've done a video on before, but I guess I haven't, which is really strange considering how valuable this guy is for newer players. Now, obviously, there are better free-to-plays you could be using, and, we're getting stronger and stronger units by the day, but if you are just starting out and you want someone that is incredibly simple to use and will give you a really good return considering how brain-dead they are to just throw out there, then Robin Hood's going to be your guy. Now, if you're new to the channel and you don't know what low star legends are, basically, it's a series where I'm reviewing all of the low rarity servants in the game, and then talking about why you should level them up. In most cases, there will be some low star legends we'll get to eventually that will not be worth leveling, but hey, even Saber Guiles eventually got a buff, so eventually they'll all become usable, I'm sure. That being said, if you love the daily FGO content and find these videos to be helpful or maybe even entertaining, I'd appreciate a like in the video and maybe even a subscription on the channel if you do find it to be helpful and informative. But with that being said, let's just go ahead and start diving right into this guy, starting off with his kit. And I'm laughing a little bit because, oh boy, this is a year 1 3-star. There is really not much going on here in terms of depth that we're going to be able to get into with this guy. I mean, rocking 3 hits on the double quick cards, 2 on the double arts cards, not even a 5-hit extra attack, 1 card on the buster really doesn't matter, thankfully, and his natural NP gain is kind of fine at 0.87%. It's just his hits are really low, but you can kind of make up for that because Robin Hood, being an archer, has really high natural star weight, and he's got a skill to help him out with NP refund, and he can fund some of his own stars, so if you crit on some of those arts cards, you might get some decent refund. I mean, let's just not waste any time. Let's just start diving into the skills, because clearly with a lot of these low rarity servants, it is just that they have some gimmick in their skill set, and that's why you break them out. It's not like, oh my goodness, Ereshkigal's arts card is so broken when you pair it with their 3rd skill. It's nothing like that, right? Like, for these year 1 servants, especially the low rarity servants that they really did not seem to care as much about, but thankfully some of them were able to make it out being okay. These guys just have no hits. You're not going to be refunding like an absolute madman, but you can even see the year 1 philosophy with his hits. They really did not think Quick was going to be at all like just anything usable, and they gave him 3 hits. They're like, we'll spare him the 3 hits over there. Then you get the extension of that with people like Okita and Jack, who have dummy nutty quick cards. But this is a Robin video. We're not talking about Okita and Jack. So moving into his first skill, you have Sabotage A. You're going to reduce all enemies' attack by, get this, 15% for 3 turns, and hit them with poison of 500 damage per turn for 5 turns to all enemies on a 5-turn cooldown. Now, I know I'm being sarcastic, and you guys might be like, well, is this not very good? Is there something wrong with this? Technically, no. Okay, lowering all enemies' attack by 15% for 3 turns, that's fine. Technically, it makes you a little tankier. In the setups that I'm using in the background, I'm using things that should be considered free to play, so 3-star CEs. I'm using Waver and Tamamo because we do have 2 5-star tickets, and you could have picked up Waver from Fuyuki, Tamamo with the next one we're going to be getting, or the one we just got, and then the next one, if you didn't pick her up there, you could always pick up Tamamo later. Regardless, it should be kind of a free-to-play-ish setup, and if you have the attack down and you have Waver's defense and damage cut, you might be decently tanky, but if you're running into any modern boss, you're going to get butt blasted into the universe. But really, the one thing we care about is something that I actually don't ever highlight when I talk about these servants, and that's the poison that lasts for 5 turns on the 5-turn cooldown, because that's Robin Hood's gimmick. Robin Hood has a special power mod that we'll get to in a little bit on poisoned enemies, which is really, really strong. In fact, his power mod is exceptionally powerful because it's much higher than the norm, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. The main thing you need to know here is that it will always effectively be up. Robin Hood should never be without his special power mod, because if you have this at skill 10, you poison him for 5 turns, your skill is down for 5 turns. So it will come back as soon as you're ready to, reapply poison to everybody. The only downside is that poison is a debuff, and there can be some frustrations in trying to land that on bosses with high debuff resistance or just straight up debuff immunity. So do keep that in mind. But again, this is more for newer players that don't have a dedicated art single target archer, even though Uriel exists, but hey, sometimes you just want to slam dunk people with Robin Hood, right? Maybe you watched Fate Extra. Well, I can't say watch because Last Encore, my opinion, wasn't the greatest, but if you read Fate Extra or went through CCC or something, or even maybe read the Fox Trail manga, you know, maybe you're a fan of Robin Hood in there. The second skill is that NP gain support I was talking about earlier. It gives you 30% for 3 turns on a 6-turn cooldown, so effectively it has a neutral cooldown time. You get it for 3 turns, it's down for 3 turns. And while it's up, his refund can be pretty decent, right? Like, you'll see me fighting against Berserkers and getting a crit towards the end, and you're able to get like 30-40% back on Berserkers. Berserkers give you the least NP refund back, so that's actually not all that bad against, like, say, a caster enemy, or just even fighting against a Saber who you're probably going to be doing it normally. You could expect to get anywhere upward of 50% NP gain on some of them, which is not bad. It kind of makes it a battery, quote unquote, if you want to think about it that way. It's just obviously not immediately accessible, but it does tie his kit together a little bit and can help your other supports not having to baby him as much. Thankfully, he is an art servant, so the servants that are going to be babying him are going to be people like, oh, I don't know, Lady Avalon, Castoria, just some decent units. I've heard they're fairly good, so he'll probably be in good hands. And then finally, there's his third skill. Now, this one actually might seem to have a little bit more going on than some of the other ones, or maybe it seems kind of decent. You're like, huh, I wonder, well, it's not the craziest skill, but this is a really well put together skill. Well, a lot of the low rarity servants in this game did not launch with complete kits. I know. Can you believe that back in the day, not every servant was guaranteed 3 skills? Some of them, I believe, only had 1 skill. I think there was like some unlucky people that just did not get a second skill, but I'm pretty sure I might be yapping on that one. Someone in the comments can let me know if I'm wrong on that one. But I remember there's a ton of servants that just did not have a third skill. So when I was getting in here, I was like, oh my goodness, this guy's got a whole new skill. This changes everything. And in the case of Robin Hood, it does kind of change everything for him because it gives him survivability, so evasion for 1 turn, pierce evasion or pierce dodge with the sure hit buff right there, and then it also bombs 20 stars for him, and it's on a 6-turn cooldown. So the reason this is really good is that if your supports, for whatever reason, I know we're now living in the age of Lady Avalon and Castoria and being immortal for 500 more billion turns, but work with me, if you have your own survivability, whenever their skills might be down, maybe Castoria's buffs got removed, a lot of buffs are getting removed nowadays by some of these bosses, you at least have your own survivability, and then being able to just bomb 20 stars is really nice. As I mentioned earlier, getting some crits on those arts cards, especially when the second skill is up, can give you a decent bit of NP refund back. It means your supports have to baby you just a little bit less, and pierce evasion is nice. I mean, it lets you get around all of the dodgy guys, which I don't know about you, but when I think of dodge characters, I think of people like Ku, so maybe not super great against them, but hey, if there's a Hercules boss, like maybe that new advanced quest that came out, the guy's got dodge built into his kit, maybe you can bring Robin into that one. Actually, scratch it, that's probably not a very good idea, because that Herc fight is quite hard. But look, early on in the game, a lot of characters will use dodge or something, and then you have a way to guarantee to get around. You don't have to just stall around for a turn, doing nothing. You can keep pressure on the boss or whoever you're fighting by getting around their dodge and kind of making that whole skill worthless for them. But overall, solid kit for a free-to-play servant. Again, I would say if you're going to level up a single target arts archer, I would just do Uriel because she's really, really good. She's kind of more in line with what the modern meta wants. But when you look at this guy's NP, you can see why people still like breaking him out. All it is bonus damage against poisoned enemies. And you'll see on the overcharge, it scales from 200 to 250%. If that doesn't tell you how important this is, let me just tell you that normally overcharge power mods or special damage start at 150% and go up to 200%. Effectively, the poison power mod he has is a fully overcharged power mod for somebody else. Now, keep in mind, he is still a 3-star, so it's not like he's out here doing like 300 billion damage, but the numbers he's putting up here, especially because he effectively always has this up as long as he can get the poison off, which again, shouldn't be too hard. You know, it's not like every boss is rocking 80% debuff resistance or something along those lines. He can do some good numbers with a decent free-to-play setup over here, just giving him like Dragon's Meridian and just tossing Waver and Tamamo in there. He's hitting around like 230 to 300,000 whenever you add the plug suit with Jufu. That's not bad for a servant that I didn't put anything else into. I mean, I did the normal foes, but no gold foes, no grails, didn't black grail him or anything. That's not bad damage. I mean, to kind of put that into perspective for you, as a free-to-play, keep this in mind, an NP5 Robin Hood, who you should be able to get for free because he's on every single banner, is the highest damaging single target archer in the game. Now, that is without taking in power mods and everything, just talking free damage, because say somebody like King Tut is able to out-damage him if he's fighting a demonic opponent, or if Fujino is fighting a super large enemy, she will out-damage him. But that's all of them at NP1, and because you're not guaranteed to get any of these 4-star servants at anything higher than NP1, because you have to summon for them, they're limited, that makes him really valuable. If you don't have an NP5 Sith because she won't leave you alone when you're trying to summon for Barghest, you can go ahead and use Robin Hood. Or if you just don't have Emiya Alter, well, now you have a free-to-play version of that guy being able to put out more damage and having a kit that's okay. And that's all you can really ask for these free-to-plays. Now, I'm always advocating that free-to-plays get much better and better buffs because I want the flooring for FGO to be brought up a little bit higher as the game gets more and more difficult. I see people in my Discord all the time, or in the comments, or in my Twitch streams, which is linked down in the description down below, by the way, and they will mention like, oh, I don't know how to beat this boss, or people are really gassing this guy up, I can't beat him, or especially seeing like certain celebrities get into the game and they'll be like, oh, I don't know how to beat this guy Gawain, how do I do it? And they just don't know that we have some really strong free-to-play servants. They're not absolute bangers. Is Robin Hood competing with King Tut at all? Absolutely not. Is he stepping on Archer Artoria's toes? He might be doing more damage, but in overall function, she's way better. Is he going to be stepping up to UDK Barghest? Absolutely not. But he's free. You get him for free. He is super cheap to level up because he's a 3-star servant. So if you're hurting for QP, I don't know why you would after the lotto, but if you're hurting for QP, these guys are your friends. The one thing that I learned whenever I started my JP account a couple of years ago, as opposed to my NA account that I did many, many years ago, was I started by leveling up all of the low rarity servants and getting all their skills at least to 999, because I realized how strong all of these free-to-plays are. Sure, you might not be doing anything super flashy or being like, I'm gonna do a more billion damage against this guy because this guy's a super large Earth Knight of the Round Table or something, right? You're not having to align the stars with your fancy units. It's just a good unit that's usable and can get you through some of these fights. Obviously, he's going to fall off the more you go into deeper and deeper content, but Robin Hood is especially primed to be good because if you picked up Castoria, and especially you picked up somebody like Lady Avalon and you don't have a DPS, the supports are so good, they can make somebody like this that has a passable kit just get through most of these fights. Like, as long as you baby them, you keep them alive, they do have lower HP because they are lower rarity servants. But if you can do that with her giving them max HP and Castoria having the most broken defensive effect in the game, Solemn Defense, they'll be able to get the job done for you. And I know you'll find in the comments, there will probably be other people saying like, oh, I used Robin Hood to get through this fight, or I used him for X, Y, and Z. I still use Robin Hood. In fact, I myself will still break him down every now and again when I'm like, man, I don't have anything to fight this like random sky attribute power mod saber. You know, I wonder who that could be. Let me just break out my boy Robin Hood and just have him nuke him for a bunch of damage, right? And it is really fun whenever you start to get a more established account and be like, all right, let's do the double Castoria Black Grail. Let's roll out the boy Oberon and just see how much damage we can crank out of this boy. But with all that being said, I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment section down below. And again, if you are a newer player, my Discord is in the description down below. We have a pretty robust and active FGO channel. I've been popping in there from time to time every now and again. So if you have any questions or you just want to chat with other people about your polls, about FGO, the lore, whatever have you, feel free to pop in down there. That's going to be in the description down below, as well as the Twitch and some other fancy things down there. But with all that being said, I refuse to take any more of your time than necessary, so I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. You guys have yourselves a nice day, and I'll catch y'all in the next one. Peace late, guys.